Welcome to the Big Play Cleveland Show. I'm Gabriella Cruz alongside Chris McNeil, Nick Padone, and shout out to producer Ryan because it's a little toasty in the studio today. We're muscling through. McNeil doesn't even have his usual Mountain Dew. I don't know how you're going to make it the whole show.
Playing without a net here.
I know. We've got so much to talk about on the show today, guys. Rory McIlroy, I know the big golf heads out here. The Masters was so exciting. Even for me, I'm not a huge fan, I guess, but this really suckered me in. And the drama down the stretch, I thought he was gonna let it slip through his fingers, but he completes the career Grand Slam. How are you watching it, McNeil? You bet on him, right?
Yeah, I did. Well, I called it last week. I said Rory was going to get the Grand Slam, get it done, and he did it yesterday. I'll tell you what an up and down round. It was a lot of fun watching. From the beginning, he doubles right off the bat, allows Bryson DeChambeau right in there. I thought Bryson was going to take the reins at that point. Sure enough, Rory gets back on the wagon and starts rolling again up until 13, tries to play it safe, still hits it in the water. You get to 18, you're feeling pretty good. He hits it into the sand, makes bogey, ends up winning it in a playoff over Justin Rose. Fantastic drama all day Sunday. So a great Masters weekend. You had the spring game for Ohio State on Saturday. You had a full slate, so there's a lot to break down on the show.
Joe Flacco back in Cleveland. Cavs waiting to find out who they're going to play in the first round of the playoffs. Should be a fun show.
And we're definitely going to get into, this is a little teaser, but reflog the Munilat Kids cards.
Yes. Yes. And we'll get to that a little bit later, too, because I have a surprise for the both of you.
Okay, well, stay tuned. Let's take our first break of the show. We'll be back with more Big Play Cleveland right after this. Welcome back to the Big Play Cleveland Show. It's time for our Cleveland headlines brought to you by Fairway Ford.
Fairway Ford offers complete customization for any vehicle on the lot with their Fairway Black Label line. This series features custom upgrades like premium wheel and tire packages, a wide variety of level or lift kits, performance enhancements, and fully customized interior options. And every Fairway Black Label truck comes with a Rhino spray-in bed liner. Whether you're looking for an aggressive off-road stance, a bold street presence, or a one-of-a-kind build, Fairway Black Label delivers. As a bonus, many of these upgrades can be financed for as little as 0% APR, depending upon the vehicle line. You dream it, they can build it. Visit fairwayfordohio.com to explore their current Black Label inventory or give them a call to start designing yours today.
Okay, guys, I know this was the big breaking news for the Browns. Flacco's back. What were your initial thoughts and reactions? And we can get into kind of how X and everybody seems to have responded.
It kind of gets us to a base level of competence, I think, in the QB room right now, right? You feel a little bit better having Flacco in there, even though he's 40 years old. It's a 17-game season. Who knows how many he's going to make it through? I assume he's going to be the starter, but it does give us a little bit of hope as Browns fans right now. Maybe at the ceiling he can rekindle a little bit of magic, or at the very least, he can be kind of a stabilizing presence there in that QB room.
You know, it never made any sense that Joe Flacco left Cleveland. And I think that's what everyone kind of realized on Friday when this news came down, was this was so overdue. Joe Flacco is a guy that wanted to be in Cleveland. I'm told he turned down offers from several other teams that offered more guaranteed money. He stayed patient throughout this process because he wanted to find out what the Cleveland Browns were going to do before he made his decision. So Joe Flacco always wanted to be in Cleveland. It's a disappointment that it didn't happen last year. Who knows what last season could have looked like. Obviously, really glad to have him back here now.
Yeah. Do you think that, the argument online has been, do you think this will impact the draft plans?
I think it's more of an indicator of how much confidence they have in the draft. And I don't think they're going to go high with a quarterback. I think they're going to still draft a quarterback, but I don't think it's going to be a 2. And this shows that they've got the plan A now, since that plan A doesn't seem to be on the table.
And I think it's just a way for them to leave all options open. Like if they wanted to take Shedeur Sanders at 2, they still could. Joe Flacco is going to be 41 years old this year. He throws a ton of interceptions. They paid him $4 million. That's less money than what Zach Wilson got from the Miami Dolphins. That doesn't exactly scream, this is our quarterback, this is our franchise, we're giving this guy the keys right away. It's still an open competition. If they had to play games today, now they could, between Joe Flacco and Kenny Pickett, but I think they're still going to keep all options open as the draft just over a week away now.
Yeah, and I think to your point, Chris, that's just a good vibe right there. That's good energy, that veteran presence, and people really respected him, and just like the energy that he brought, the fans really loved him too. So this was I think a very great move for us. Okay, Reflog, you got to tell us about, you left us on a cliffhanger with the Muni-Lat kids.
So when I was a kid, there was garbage pail kids, right? Back in the 80s and the 90s, I collected them. I loved them. I was never quite the artist to be able to recreate them, but I thought that Cleveland and the Cleveland universe needed their own set, so I created Muni-Lot cards, or Muni-Lot kids, that are cards that are based on the old garbage pail kids, but are Cleveland-centric. And I made one for each of the people in this room as well.
What?
So,
Oh,
Gab,
let's
see.
go.
Oh, first we've got, there we go.
Oh my goodness, stop
The
it. That
sports
is
Gab
incredible.
right there. How about that?
Oh my gosh.
Muni-Lot kids.
McNeil, that's awesome. Was this AI generated? Like,
They're all AI generated.
Oh my
Like I
God.
say, I'm not an artist, so I couldn't make them myself. And there you go. Padone the interruption.
oh my gosh, that is hilarious.
And we've got one more. We've got one for our
Come on
producer
now, come on
extraordinaire,
now.
Ryan, the show
Yes.
savior down there.
I love
oh my
that
gosh,
one.
these are stunning. That is so funny and
Ryan's
incredible.
my favorite.
So Muni-Lot kids, be watching my feed as I produce more of these things. But, you know, it's just dedicated to the fans and the fandom around Cleveland sports, right? We've got so many characters around, and it just lends itself very well to this.
And I will say that the one you did of Jim Brown for his daughter on X was very sweet.
Yes.
Or I'm sorry, did I say
For
Jim
Jimmy
Brown?
Donovan. For
Jimmy
Jimmy Donovan. Yeah.
Jim
Marina,
Donovan, yes.
She reached out to me, asked to do one for her father. And I'll tell you what, that was the hardest meme I've ever made. I actually
Yeah.
sat there and I had to generate like 10 of these things to get one that's
yeah.
right. Because you're trying to do it right. I mean, this guy's he was a legend.
Absolutely.
And he was a legend to a lot of people, including myself in Cleveland. And so to correctly honor him while also being in the same kind of tongue-in-cheek way with the Garbage Pail Kids and what I was trying to do there. But came up with one. I think she enjoyed it. So ended up being a nice little story.
Yeah.
And as the Muni-Lot kids overall are. So it's been kind of fun, and it'll be something that I'll continue to kind of pour some energy in as we get closer to the season.
Super
Very
cool.
sweet. I thought that brought a lot of camaraderie, and I know she was very appreciative
Yeah.
of that. You can go find it on X. There, we'll tease it even more for you.
There we go.
Okay, guys, let's talk about the Cavs. We finished the regular season 64-18. That's the second best record in franchise history. And you know what's kind of crazy is that double overtime. What did you guys think? Did you think we were going to come back and win that thing? I mean, obviously we're resting a lot of people, but
Yeah, we had the Cleveland Charge out there basically on Sunday. And, I thought when we put our players on the floor, I thought this was going to be a long afternoon. But, you know, it's a game that doesn't matter at all for us, so it doesn't really matter what we end up doing. Then they go out to that big lead, end up blowing it. No big deal. You hate to see a game like that go into overtime.
Right.
I know Tristan Thompson was definitely sucking wind. That was a lot more minutes than he'd seen the rest of the season. But ultimately, you end up losing. Now, finally, that's over, Nick. We get to the playoffs. This is what we've been looking forward to all season long.
Yeah, and this is what the entire season was all about. You knew when you rolled it back with the core four and Darius, Donovan, Evan, Jared Allen. This was all about the playoffs. Having the 1 seed in hand is an awesome added bonus. But this season and how we determine the successfulness of what this Cavs season has been all comes down to the next couple of weeks and the next couple of months. Can this team go on a run to the conference finals? Can this team become the first team without LeBron James here in Cleveland to make an NBA finals? Those are the questions that I want to see this team answer. The regular season was awesome. It was a lot of fun. It gave us a ton of moments. I think back to when we beat the Boston Celtics, stormed back from down 23 points, and what a great deal of fun that was. But now it's time to win playoff basketball games, and that's what I'm looking forward to.
And you know, a couple of years ago, everyone was saying this team is so fun to watch. This Cavs team, fun was sort of the adjective. This year, I kind of feel like we have a little more edge. How would you describe the 2025 Cavs?
Edge and expectations now.
Yeah.
After you go through a regular season like that, you come out as the 1 seed in the East. You're really the team that everyone's gunning for. We had 17 teams that we swept in the regular season. I mean, just the numbers are unbelievable for this squad. So we've gone from fun to now show me something for these Cavs.
And regardless of, you know, the national narrative, the local narrative, the Cavs are the top team in the Eastern Conference. You're undoubtedly a top 3 team in the league. Between OKC, Boston, and Cleveland, you have serious expectations to at least make the Eastern Conference Finals this year.
Absolutely. We're excited for it. We're going to take another break. We'll be back with more Big Play Cleveland right after this.
The Big Play Sports Network is brought to you by Garage Beer. No bitterness, no frills, no IPA, just beer-flavored beer.
Welcome back to the Big Play Cleveland Show. It's time for our Garage Beer featured interview. Garage Beer is the perfect beer for any occasion. It's small batch, no frills, no bitterness. It's just beer that tastes like beer. The Garage is always open with Garage Beer. And now we welcome on a very special guest, former Ohio State Buckeye, musician, actor, lawyer. He's a mixed bag. We're happy to have him. Mecca Don, thanks for joining us.
What's up, guys? Thanks for having me.
Yeah, we see you sporting already Buckeyes, Ohio, across the chest. We'll get into so much today, but first and foremost, you've been working on the Buckle Up documentary. We want to hear about it and how it got started.
Well, if you don't mind, I want to start with this, just in case anybody's watching this. My face is half drooped. I look like Kanye, old 50, Conway the Machine from Griselda. I had a root canal this morning, so if you're wondering why my face looks like this, that is why. But listen, I play hurt, and I'm not the only one to do it, so we're going to get to it. But yes, the Buckle Up documentary, wow. I am so excited about this project. You know, going into the season last year, even writing Buckle Up, the song, I just had a feeling that it was going to be a special season for Ohio State. And, you know, as a result of that, you know, I got with a production company out here that I've been working with, and we decided that we were going to do a documentary kind of on the season on everything, you know, from the release of Buckle Up, the song, the video, kind of how it got into the community. Obviously, it became the run out song for the Buckeyes, and just document everything that happened throughout the season. And, you know, we thought it would be a good story regardless, whether we won or didn't. But the fact that we won is just icing on the cake. And then I guess the second part of this, too, is this documentary. It's coming in June, by the way, to my YouTube. It gives me a chance to kind of tell my story. I think there are a lot of people that, you know, either know me or have heard my name or knows, you know, bits and pieces about me, but don't necessarily know me. And I realized over time how that can happen. So this gives me kind of, you know, one forum where I can kind of just, you know, be in control and tell my story and give people a chance to know me a little bit better as well.
So take us behind the scenes here a little bit, Mecca. So you're building this documentary. The season's going on. We're going in a great direction with national championship aspirations. All of a sudden, you lose to that team up north and then go on this fantastic journey after that to win the championship. I mean, the ups and downs of that was just fit for a documentary. And then here you are actually filming one. Take us through that.
It's crazy that you say that because I think the season in itself was a drama on its own, right? So you talk about, you know, obviously, you know, starting off pretty hot, going into that first Oregon game, losing that in dramatic fashion, but still realizing that, you know, everything is still ahead of you. You had your next couple games that you think are going to be probably your toughest games, happen to be Indiana, Penn State, and even Nebraska at a certain point. That didn't turn out to be true. But at that point, I think early in the season, they were like 5-0. So they looked like they might have been something. And we didn't seem too worried about the team up north. I mean, obviously, you're worried about them because of the rivalry. But in terms of their play on the field, it wasn't that scary. So once we got past kind of Indiana and Penn State, we were starting to see the light at the end of the tunnel, right? It's like, okay, wow, this season could be special. We go on, we beat the team up north. We go to the Big Ten championship. We get a rematch against Oregon. Boom, you know, heading to the playoffs in a strong fashion. And so that was really exciting. I remember even just the energy going into the game against the team up north, where everybody was really excited and really confident. I mean, we had everything that you think you would need to beat that team finally on the field. And then we go into that game. And I remember as the game was progressing, even at around like second quarter, maybe even before halftime, I was like, oh my gosh, this is not going the way this game is supposed to go. We were supposed to smoke these guys this year based on everything on the field, you know, everything they lost versus everything we had coming back. We were at home. The weather was good, you know, just the motivation, so on and so forth. And then in the third quarter, I started saying, oh my gosh, for the first time, I was like, we can actually lose this game because this game plan is not a winning game plan. And we're just not executing on the field and we look like we're playing scared. And then we actually lost the game. And it was crazy. So I have, you know, Lathan Ransom and Denzel Burke. They're also in the documentary. And part of what you'll see is them talking kind of about the aftermath of that, what happened after that game. And just how crazy it was internally in the locker room and, you know, in Buckeye Nation and just the idea that we could actually lose to them in that type of situation. So now it just looks like, okay, this isn't really, it's not about cheating anymore. It's not about, on the field talent. It's just really there's some type of block that's there really when it comes to that game. So, but then, then afterward you realize, well, we got lucky this year, really, right? In terms of 12-team playoff, first time ever. And we have the ability to now go into the playoff. And really it's a clean slate. Yeah, you might have a tough road or a tough side of the bracket, but it's a clean slate. And that's really the first time in history that's happened. So as I started to think about stuff, and then also, just kind of getting clues from what was happening kind of internally, it seemed like the program was confident, and it didn't seem like these guys were going to fold. And I think part of that was because obviously the leadership at the top, but a lot of leaders, seniors, and people who came back, to try to win. So these guys weren't satisfied with just saying, okay, we lost, we're about to pack it in. They're like, no, we can still go win a national title and still ride out of here, pretty successful. And so I started seeing that, the energy that I was hearing, I was like, wow, this could be something special. And then, oh boy, we went on the craziest run probably that we may ever see in college football.
I think that's going to be the coolest part of the documentary is it's going to capture all the highs and lows and really give us an intimate look at what that journey has been like. The cool thing, too, is that, okay, let's rewind to 2014 here. You've already produced some awesome music for the team. When Juice made its mark in 2014 and then they stormed to the national title, what was that moment like for you guys? And also just like how much credit do we owe you and that song for getting
two songs now, two national titles.
It's a lot of pressure, guys, and that's actually kind of an important part of the documentary as well. We actually got Curtis Grant, who's a 2014 captain, who was in the documentary as well, actually talking about Juice and just kind of the effect that it had on them. And so, I remember back then just thinking like, wow, this is just, I was just excited for the team and to even have any small kind of part of it. And, for people to even mention my name, even as a footnote, I thought was pretty cool. And then they got national coverage. I mean, MTV was talking about, they wrote an article about it. And obviously it was on Big Ten Network and ESPN and all that stuff. So that was really, really exciting. And again, for me as an artist, part of part of what you want as an artist is you want to draw attention to your music, right? And find platforms, especially when you're an independent artist, find platforms to where you can get your music heard and broadcasted, broadly. And so that was kind of, I would say, one of the first scenarios, that kind of situation through Juice that happened. And then for us to go on and win, and then, us have the t-shirts and, kind of the whole movement, that was amazing, So, and then seeing the aftermath too, like I think they had Ezekiel Elliott and some of the guys, the national championship guys, they danced at halftime of the basketball game to it and some choreographed thing. I didn't even know that was happening, those type of things. So it was just, it's so awesome to see how like music can really, just shape moments and inspire moments and be, a part of things that you remember. I mean, a lot of times there's certain songs we remember where we were when we first heard them, or they take us back to certain moments. And so Juice definitely does that for a lot of Buckeye fans. And so to be able to do it again, buckle up, it's been pretty cool.
Now, Mecca, this past weekend, you were at the spring game. Tell us, what were your biggest takeaways? What do you see right now with these Buckeyes trying to defend now their national title from last year?
I think the biggest couple of takeaways. One is that these guys have juice, no pun intended, but there's no drop off in terms of the intensity. I didn't see a bunch of guys acting like, we just won the national championship, we're good. I felt like there was a lot of energy, and that's not just from the spring game. That's also from the practices I've been to and even pro day. And then on the field, I mean, Julian saying he's going to be a stud, man. I mean, we've always thought that, but sometimes we want to rush people along before they go through the process. And I think him sitting and behind Will and just learning, right, and then being ready for his time, and then also being pushed by Lincoln, which I think is a very important storyline. By the way, I know everyone assumes it's going to be Julian, and it probably will, but I think that having somebody that's also talented that can push you is going to be very important. So I think the quarterback play, I don't think anybody should have any concerns there from the talent perspective, and then also obviously just our ability to develop quarterbacks at Ohio State. So I think that was a very important. And then, I said this yesterday, Mylan Graham, man, that dude just popped off. I mean, I guess the screen. He was just. It's just what Heartline is doing there is just unbelievable. I mean, we already know about Jeremiah and Carnell and Ennis, but to have Mylan Graham, even Quincy, some of those young guys. I mean, there's that room is going to be deep and going to be impressive this year and beyond. And then our offensive line. I think our offensive line is going to dominate this year, which is, going into, at this point last year, that was actually probably the thing we were the most nervous about. Which is funny because it ended up being probably one of the most dominant units ever, even after the injury. So, but the talent is there, the energy was there, the hunger was there, and we got a lot of young guys, but a lot of talented guys who've been there and know what it takes to win.
Now, you've been to a lot of spring games over your career. This one was at first billed like it was a showcase. Then they said it was a game. What was the atmosphere like down there? Was it similar to what you've seen in the past, or was Ryan Day doing it a little bit differently this year?
I think it was mostly similar. One of the differences I think was the crowd, right? The crowd wasn't as big as I'm used to. I mean, I remember times we had 99,000 people in the stadium, and I think part of it is because people didn't really know what it was going to be. So the excitement didn't get to build up the way it normally would, and then also, I think that I talked to one of the coaches probably like a week before the spring game. And he told me that he didn't even know what it was going to be. Like it was being that closely held to the vest because they didn't want it to, leak to the media exactly. So I think what probably happened in the week leading up to it was they decided that, all of the reasons aside why people are getting rid of their spring games, including being kind of a showcase for the transfer portal, I think they decided, you know what, let's just play. And so it felt very similar to the previous spring games, and guys were definitely giving their energy, and the intensity was there. And it was also great to see them, play with that level of intensity and then leave with no injuries, which is also another reason why, they don't, coaches don't really want to do it anymore. But it felt good.
Mecca Don, thank you so much for your time, sharing some of your insights, the story, and your creative work. We're really looking forward to June. We can catch Buckle Up on YouTube. Let us know, let the people know where they can find your YouTube and all of this amazing work.
Definitely. So check out my YouTube, subscribe. It's Mecca Don Music. So youtube.com/MEKKADONMUSIC. And at Mecca Don Music is all my social media as well. So hit me up there. You'll be seeing trailers and promos coming out here in the next couple of weeks. So middle of June is our target date for release for the documentary. So appreciate the support.
The Big Play Sports Network is brought to you by Infinity, luxury experiences for those who dare to be different.
Bringing the heat on the Big Play Cleveland Show, brought to you by our friends at Northeast Factory Direct. My name's Nick Padone for Northeast Factory Direct. Everybody knows that it's baseball season, but that means that it's also patio season. It's about 100 degrees in this studio right now, which means that spring is here. It's about to be nice weather outside. That means you got to get your patio in working order. You don't want to be the guy that can't host the hangout this summer because the patio isn't looking spectacular. Northeast Factory Direct can help with that. Go visit them because we're talking about beautiful outdoor sectionals, dining sets, fire pit tables, the works, you name it, they've got it. Shop online anytime by visiting northeastfactorydirect.com, but you have to check them out in person. Cleveland, Euclid, Macedonia, North Canton. When you're shopping in person, you're getting ready to check out, make sure to ask for that extra special Big Play bonus. You're going to get a nice little hookup when you bring that up. Huge thanks to our friends over at Northeast Factory Direct. Go check them out today. Cleveland, Euclid, Macedonia, North Canton. It's time to bring in Jensen Lewis. Jensen, as a former pitcher, how encouraging was it to see Luis Ortiz go back-to-back quality starts and another strong performance against Kansas City?
Yeah, massive, Nick, right? And a guy that I think this offseason, when you were looking at, just the acquisitions by the club and where they were trying to bolster the rotation, this was an arm that through a lot of major league circles, I think people thought was a steal for the Guardians to be able to get, and only having to basically flip Spencer Horwitz over to Pittsburgh to be able to have him come back. and know that you have him in the fold with Carl Willis and, the pitching machine that is this organization. You felt that they would have the opportunity to really be able to finish him off. And so now you're kind of seeing the early returns here. Yes, spring training wasn't ideal from a result standpoint, but this was the kind of swing and miss they envisioned, and the scouts had basically said, hey, the opportunities are there, the capability is within that body, and now you see it translate at the big league level the way it has the last couple of times out.
Jensen, another guy who really stood out against the Royals, Gabriel Arias. How exciting is it to see this guy? He was 5 for 10, 2 home runs. He had that big 3-run shot Friday night, which was exciting. Kind of opened the door and gave us the giving us the shutout. Is he making a case to be the everyday second baseman, you think?
I totally agree, Gab. And an early sample here where he's gotten the opportunity to play every day. And for young guys, that's really all you want, is the opportunity to put together a handful of series, and this one in particular, as you mentioned, the power and the slug really coming out. And so the opportunity now, I think, is present for Stephen Vogt to say, hey, go out there and get him, big boy. I mean, there's no one else that's really pushing him at this point. And if you look back to the end of spring training, I feel like that was the organizational choice in that timeline of, okay, if we're going to do it, we not only need to make that apparent early, but we also need to give him a long runway to be able to show, or at least have the opportunities to show, that he's capable of the everyday job.
One of the questions, it seems to be a weekly question now, what's going on with Emmanuel Clase? We saw him come in a game this weekend where they were up by 6 runs. How is the organization going to handle him? And is he going to respond and start pitching and get back into that form that we saw last year?
I hope so, Chris, right? But it is something that I'll try and reiterate to people. It is unbelievable the year that he had last year, and to realize any opportunity to get anywhere close to that statistically is that's really a hard thing to do. And so what I want to see more from him, and I know a lot's been talked about mixing in the slider a little bit more, just getting out of the big part of the plate, right? And being able to kind of throw into a right-hander. That's a little bit more difficult when you have a cut fastball, because essentially you're having to start it at the hip or start it at the hands to have it come back into the inside part of the plate. But, last year, so many guys were uncomfortable in at bats, and it felt like they were down 0-2 as soon as they walked up there. That's not been the case early. Don't want to pass judgment just yet, but there needs to be, in these next handful of series, some encouraging signs for him to come out.
What's the latest, Jensen, on Lane Thomas, that wrist injury, and how much has his absence impacted the Guardians lineup?
Right, Nick, how he can really be someone that is so critical in the middle of the lineup. And without Josh Naylor, you were going to look to him and Kyle Manzardo to be able to help shoulder the load there. So I think what happens now is the club obviously needs him for the long haul. They'll do whatever they need to, just being conservative with the approach. But you're right. Without him in the lineup, it has left what has felt like a hole. And it's not just, for here these couple of weeks, but also when you get in against the really good teams, you're going to need every available and impactful offensive bat.
The next 2 series, Jensen, we got the Orioles, then we've got the Pirates. What are you going to be looking for from the Guardians in those 2 series?
Yeah, it's sometimes, Chris, it's about when you play teams, and I think this is a perfect time to catch Baltimore. They have been just really inconsistent offensively, and their pitching staff, guys, used to seeing this the last couple of years from the St. Louis Cardinals, where there's not a ton of swing and miss in the rotation. That's really been the case with Baltimore so far this year. One of the lowest strikeout percentages for a starting rotation in Major League Baseball. Also, when you think about Pittsburgh, the opportunity to go up against Paul Skeens and really kind of see what the best of the best is all about. So critical road trip, almost an opportunity getting across the line to sweep a homestand. You'll take that every single time, especially when it's within the division. So a lot of momentum headed into this week.
Now, I know you were working this week. Did you get a chance to watch any of the Masters, Jensen?
I got a little of the encore presentation, Chris, but I got to tell you, we had the iPad on in the booth at Ole Miss, and we were checking every commercial break, and it was just wild to see from start to finish how incredible that one was, from just a roller coaster of emotion.
Pretty wild. Rory gets it done, gets that grand slam. Fun to watch on Sunday.
We appreciate you, Jensen. I know you're juggling here. You're on your way to the airport, and you're a busy man. So we appreciate your insights as always. Bringing the heat with Jensen Lewis. Have a safe trip. Is it home? You're coming home, right?
Coming home. Can't wait.
Awesome. Good for you. Thanks so much. We'll see you next week.
You bet.
We'll be back with more Big Play Cleveland right after this.
Welcome on back into the Big Play Cleveland Show. It's that time where we bring on our NASCAR Cup driver for the number 10 Colleague Chevy, Ty Dillon. Ty races for Northeast Ohio's own Matt Colleague, who fields 3 teams in the Xfinity Series, 2 teams in the NASCAR Cup Series. Ty, welcome on back into the Big Play Cleveland Show.
Hey guys, I'm glad to be back. A little bit of a rough weekend for my team personally on track in Bristol this weekend, but we had a good week otherwise, and heading off into our off weekend here.
So before the weekend in Bristol really even started, I know you had a little bit of a service day on Thursday, visiting a children's hospital in Johnson City. We've got a lot of cool photos. What was that like, But before a big race, especially out there in Bristol, a place where you have a lot of experience, to go to a children's hospital, give back?
Yeah, absolutely. Going out to the Niswonger Children's Hospital there in Tennessee. You sign up for these opportunities, and sometimes to some people it may seem like an obligation, but you go and you get to talk to these kids and their family who are not in the most ideal situation. Nobody wants to be in the hospital, and you go to put a smile on their face and you leave with a big smile on your heart. Some of these kids were just so special, so amazing, and just visiting with them just really puts things in perspective, and was such a awesome morning there in Tennessee. And then we left there and went to the Appalachian Service Project, which is a really amazing group that is working on a lot of the recovery from Hurricane Helene, which was so close to our home here in North Carolina, affected the mountain areas so much. And we went and visited with a couple who lost their home, and not only lost their home, but witnessed so much tragedy around them with their neighbors and everything. But to go see them, it was very similar to the Children's Hospital. They were so positive, so excited for what ASP, Appalachian Service Project, was doing for them and providing them a new home. And all they could talk about was where their new garden was going to be. And so that was a bit of an uplifting time in such a area that has been so negatively affected. And they were just an amazing couple, and to spend time with a great group like ASP was so cool. So it was a bit of an emotional day, but it was so needed, and gives you such good perspective on life.
Yeah, it's always so uplifting when you get to see guys, in NASCAR, in sports, out in the community doing that kind of work. How was it, just, the fact that Hurricane Helene was so close to you, to be able to, speak with people that were affected hands-on? And then what's that do for kind of your mentals, getting ready to go into a big race weekend, having a big emotional service day on Thursday?
Yeah, certainly. Driving through the mountains is something, when you live in North Carolina, that is something that I did my whole life. And you drive through these areas, and you go back after the devastation of the hurricane, and it has changed landscapes, and you just see the devastation. And there's miles and miles of these areas that have been destroyed, that are just in these pockets and valleys of the mountains. And the recovery work is still going on, 8 months later. So there's a lot going on there, but you leave that day, and my hope was that hopefully I put a smile on those people's face. I know they certainly gave me joy just visiting with them. And but you want to go on track that weekend, and put on a good show, and give them something fun to think about after all the tragedy and the hard work that they've been going through for the last couple months. And hopefully we did our part in that.
I know on the track, Bristol was a little bit of a weird showing. Obviously had a great qualifying run, and then had a little weird, slip up with the fuel. Kind of give the people some insight what happened there with the fuel mishap, if you will, I guess.
Yeah, one of the strangest weekends we've had this year. NASCAR, it's every weekend is different. You never know what to expect. We had such a good Saturday, qualified 12th. We ran the first stage, and we were pretty solid. And from that point on, we just kind of lost the handle of our car. We didn't really have the grip, but we were running probably 20th to 22nd was probably where we were looking like we were going to finish. Maybe if a couple guys had some mistakes, we get inside that top 20. But we took a chance on our strategy, ran a little long, and ran ourselves out of gas, which definitely hurt a lot of our time. There was no cautions for those who didn't watch the race. So there was no time to really come down. So we ran out of gas, which we lost a lot of time to the field. Came down, filled up the tank again, and ran out again. So it really took us from probably a top 25 solid finish to finish in 32nd. And we're pushing the issue with our car in every way that we can. And sometimes you take those risks with strategy. And we all know that wasn't who we are as a team, finishing like that and making mistakes. But we're gonna get better. And we have an off weekend coming up. No time better than to just flush it and get ready for Talladega. We're staring down the barrel of 30 races here coming up in a row.
So it's a rare week off for you here. What's a bye week look like in the world of NASCAR? We have so much, so often on the show during NFL bye weeks, we're bringing Browns players on because they finally get, a week off, and then they're going on vacation or they're going to their hometown. What's your week off look like for you?
I think in the past for my family and we'll usually try to go somewhere, but this year, the schedule is grueling, and with 3 kids, we're gonna stay home. We're gonna do Easter at home, kind of relax,
awesome.
just be where our feet are for a little bit, try to get recovered and rested up, and hopefully by the time next week rolls around after Easter, I'm getting good and anxious to go back racing again because, like I said, we have I think 30 in a row coming up. And there's no more off weekends for us, so we don't stop till November 6th. We're out there every weekend traveling from Friday till late Sunday night, sometimes early Monday morning, and it's only going to get hotter inside the race car and out there for the summer, and so it's kind of a rest and relax and get ready for the real haul of our year.
What's Easter look like at the Dillons? What's on the menu?
Well, the first thing is we're going to be Easter egg hunting. The kids are all pumped about that. But actually, coming up this Friday, I have a daddy-daughter date coming up and
Okay.
dance for her school. So it's daddy-daughter dance. So I'm looking forward to that first. And then, our neighborhood does a little get-together and a dinner, or a lunch. So we're going to have Easter lunch and just hang out, maybe watch a little golf, whatever else sports we can get into, and just kind of hang outside and spend some quality time together and get ready for the chaos that's going to ensue.
Speaking of chaos, what'd you make of the Masters and how things wound up on Sunday with Rory finally getting it done on the biggest stage and completing that Grand Slam?
Yeah, so we were in the race. I was in the car. I was following it each round, and Saturday and Sunday is tough because we're in the car kind
Yeah.
of during the peak of the final pairings. But luckily, our race had no cautions and it ended pretty quick. I was pretty frustrated with the way our day ended, so it was the only thing keep me from really losing my mind and being a jerk in the car with the kids and Haley. And so I was watching Rory and I was really hoping, I think most people probably had that pit in their stomach, like, come on, man, just do it, finish it out this time. I was wanting DeChambeau to pull it out before the round started, but once I saw kind of the situation, I was really hoping for Rory to get it, and then just to see the emotion. Everyone knows you have that emotion inside you, but when he plays it so cool constantly, and then finally it pours out. So that's a fun sporting moment. That's why we love sports, and it was cool to see that moment be accomplished. And I'm sure he's going to be pretty dangerous for
And
the
it's
rest of
kind
the
of
year
cool.
and every Masters after.
Dude, it's kind of cool to hear like that from you, from an athlete. Like we use sport, the common man uses sports as kind of like an escape from the day to day. But it's cool
Yeah.
that like even you as a professional athlete, could turn to the Masters after a rough race, a rough outing, and just use that as an escape to kind of reset the week. Like it is cool.
Yeah, for sure. The last thing I try to keep myself from looking at is anything to do with NASCAR. It doesn't matter what it was, on a bad day. You can't hardly escape it sometimes, but I love sports. I love every aspect of it. So for me, it's a great escape, watching other sports or just hanging with my family. It's about the only 2 things that I can keep from driving myself crazy because we have a 38-week season, and there's going to be days like yesterday that were so frustrating. And you can sit there and let it break your heart and wear you out and just be a rough person for the next couple weeks because it made you upset. Or you can try to flush it, reset, clear your mind. And as soon as I get off here, we're going to go to the simulator in Concord, and we're going to get back to work and work on the next week.
I love it. Make sure to go throw him a follow, everybody, at Ty Dillon. Go throw Colleague Racing some love on social media as well. Ty, enjoy your week off. Have a great Easter, and we'll do it again next week.
Yeah, thanks, guys. Happy Easter.
The Big Play Sports Network is brought to you by Pure AV, luxury home automation. Experience your dream smart home.
Welcome back to the Big Play Cleveland Show. It's time for our Fill in the Blank segment brought to you by Pure AV. They specialize in sales, service, and installation of a variety of smart home technologies. They do it all. They can help you get the perfect sports watching setup with their high-performance audio and video displays. They even offer hidden audio and video options that allow you to keep a clean, elegant interior without sacrificing your favorite technology. Pure AV can set you up with invisible architectural speakers that are hidden in your walls and ceilings, as well as disappearing TVs that vanish behind art or mirrors. Visit pureavcore.com today to see everything they offer for your home. Okay, gang, Joe Flacco will start blank games this season.
As we've already talked about, he's 40 years old, going to be 41. Why not be positive, though, Nick? He's going to start 16 games. He's going to sit the 17th game because we're getting ready for the playoffs. How about that?
Yeah.
I'm going to give you a little bit of optimism as we sit here in April.
I think he'll probably start somewhere around half of the games for the Browns. That's typically how these Browns seasons have gone ever since we lost Baker Mayfield. I have to imagine that the 2025 season will be some sort of hodgepodge between Joe Flacco, whatever rookie quarterback they take later in the draft, and Kenny Pickett. We'll probably see some action too. So I'll say he starts about half of them, but it's going to be a collective, as this quarterback situation traditionally is.
Joe Flacco hasn't started at least half of the season since 2018, so it's been a while there, Nick. We'll see.
We'll see, guys. All right, speaking of starting, blank is the Guardians starting pitcher that I trust the most right now.
Right now, it'd be Gavin Williams for me. I know Ortiz went out and threw a gem the other day, but Gavin Williams so far is the guy. I'm really looking for everybody collectively to really raise their game because we're going to need to have very good starting pitching that can go late into games if this team's going to be competitive down the stretch.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm going to look at – I'll go with Bibee. He's still the ace.
1-1 right now.
1-1 right now. 4 ERA is a little higher than you'd like it to be. I'm going to stick with Tanner, though, because he got you really through the bulk of last season. I'm going to trust him to get back on the straight and narrow and keep dominating. So despite us seeing really good things out of Ortiz his last 2 starts, I'll stick with Tanner.
Okay, with the Cavs, we won't know that opponent until Friday, but the Cavs will win their opening round series in blank games, you think?
Once again, optimism. Let's go for a sweep. Why not? We were the number 1 seed. Let's assert our dominance in the first round. Let's go out there and sweep whoever it might be.
And you look at the playoff bracket for the Cleveland Cavaliers. First round, second round, shouldn't matter. This should all be a chalk run for the Cavs to the Eastern Conference Finals, clash the Titans with the Boston Celtics. You look at their side, it might be a little bit more convoluted to predict. The Detroit Pistons could make some noise. Maybe it's the Knicks that Boston has in round 2. I think this whole thing is shaping up to be Cavs, Celtics. This May Eastern Conference Finals would be must-see TV.
Mm-hmm. Okay, my NBA Finals prediction is blank versus blank.
Give me the one the world wants to see, the Cavs versus the Lakers. LeBron back playing Cleveland. I want to see that matchup. A lot of people do, so let's make that one happen.
I'm trying to pull this up here, Chris. I bet on March 8th, a whopping $9.46 that the Cleveland Cavaliers will beat the Los Angeles Lakers. My $9 would pay out $435.
Nice.
Okay.
So I'm going Cavs versus Lakers as well.
value.
It's what America would want to see. And I think from a basketball standpoint, what the Cavs could do with Jared Allen and Evan Mobley, the Lakers don't have a center. You know, what's Killian Hayes going to do against those two guys? It would be a massive mismatch. Obviously, trying to neutralize LeBron and Luka would be a tall task, but nationally, I think the Cavs would be the pick in that series, Chris.
Shout out to Jared Allen, too. Started every single game.
82
this season.
games.
That's
Perfect attendance.
incredible in this day and age. He wanted to do that. He got his minutes there on Sunday.
He popped in for 41 seconds
Yep.
on Sunday.
Shot a 3, airballed it, committed a foul, and got out of there.
It counts. He's got
That's
the perfect
right.
attendance record. All right, well, thank you, everybody. We want to thank Pure AV one more time. Be sure to check them out at pureavcore.com. We will be seeing you next week for more Big Play Cleveland and all your Cleveland headlines right here. Be sure to check out the Big Play app. And, of course, you can find us on social media, X and